Okay, Dalit, page Memvav. The Tzarech Lahavin. We have to understand something. We've been saying in this maamar, based on the pasuk that says that you and your children will live off the extra, which the Alter Rebbe explained, and we've been speaking in depth. What does that mean? You and your children will live off the extra. That here we're talking about the soul uninspired. To re-inspire, to reinvigorate yourself, you have to do mitzvahs even though you don't feel like it. Or you have to contemplate on the very fact that you're uninspired. And that will bring a light out of your darkness. And that inspiration, you'll draw down what's called the makif, the light that's beyond. And by drawing down the makif, you, the soul, and your children, your emotions will be revived. And you're going to feel inspired again. That's what we've been saying until now. There's a major question on that. That it doesn't make sense. This is saying that not only your soul will be revived, but your children, the love and the fear, the awe, the natural emotions of the soul will also be revived through this extra inspiration. That makes no sense. Because we said that noisar, the extra, what is the extra? It is the makif, the light beyond. And certainly according to the explanation we said that it's talking about the distant makif, the makif that's really beyond. How is it possible for the makif to invigorate your inner capacities of love and fear, your internal faculties?
Right, because it's an external love.
It's makif. Makif means beyond being detected, beyond being felt. It's there, but it's not experienced like internally. So how can a makif experience revive your internal emotions of love and fear?
Because that's the level that it's touching inside you. That will trickle down to a real emotion or a real tangible feeling.
How can makif trickle to an internal feeling? We said that your avodah, when you serve Hashem, even though you're not in the mood of it, what you draw down is the makif. Because you're serving Hashem with the makif of your soul, so therefore you draw down a makif light from Hashem. Mm-hmm. That was called the makif hakarov. If you go even deeper than that and you contemplate on your emptiness, then you draw down the makif harachik, the distant makif. Okay, that's wonderful for your soul, but how's that going to impact your feelings? Feelings are internal, the opposite of makif. The whole definition of makif is a surrounding, encompassing experience, not an internal one that affects the emotion.
Makif is surrounding and encompassing, but from the inside out, not from the outside in.
No. You're drawing down a light, a divine light that is so high, it's too much to be contained in this world. That's what you're drawing down.
Okay, so if it's too much to be contained in this world, how does it come into the world?
In a makif away, as a makif.
Okay, in what vessel? In what keli?
No keli. That's what a makif is. It's beyond any keli.
Okay.
What it means is, so we can understand, if all this would say was that you will be swept up by inspiration. Okay, we can understand a makif experience you can have. What is a makif experience? It's one that you can't put your finger on. You can't quite describe it. It's not an orderly, defined emotion. It's just like this overwhelming feeling. That's what a makif experience is. We get that. You can have makif experiences. Makif doesn't mean it's somewhere else. Makif means it's not contained in the world. It's not limited. It's not defined by the world. But it's there. But to say that you have a makif experience, and this makif experience will revive your emotions, and your love and your awe for God will be revived. One second. Love and awe are internal emotions. That's your conscious inner self, not your higher self. How can a higher experience be translated into an inner emotion?
I think the same question can be asked, that how can your consciousness and your contemplation trigger the makif coming down? The same question in reverse. It's like, how can us, what's going on inside us, trigger this divine light that is so supernal to come down into the world? Very good question.
Very good question. So how do we explain it until now? How do we explain that we are arousing the makif?
Our emptiness. Our bittul.
Right. So if it's your bittul, that can arouse a makif, because it's not about you and your containers. It's going out of your containers. But your question is good, and it'll come up.
Okay.
It'll come up as well. Which really means we've got to understand how are we relating to makif. Either way, either by us arousing it or it arousing us. But if it's makif, it's makif. That means it's beyond. And he was saying that the makif, not only we arouse it, but we're inspired by it. That's all internal stuff. That needs to be explained.
My understanding of anything, makif, or any sort of equivalent, such highness, is that because of our connection with Hashem, our raw connection with Hashem, that's the only way and on the only level that we can actually relate to anything of this strength, is in a very raw way, something that we don't understand, but it just clicks inside us, and it's not us intellectualizing it.
Right.
It's just the connection that happens because we're both from the same source.
But then it shouldn't impact emotion either. It's a connection that's higher, but for it to impact emotion means you've internalized it.
I don't know. I think sometimes, especially when you've got when you can't intellectualize it, the first thing that impacts is emotion. You don't know why you just burst out crying, or you don't know why you all of a sudden feel inspired.
Okay, but that's not love and fear.
Right. Okay.
Crying is not always emotion. Sometimes it's overload. That's different.
Okay.
Emotion, he was saying that you will have an internal. Remember the problem here in the first place, that you've lost your excitement for godliness. You're not in awe of God anymore. You don't feel it. That was the problem. I don't feel it anymore. So to say that the makif will make you feel it again needs to be explained. So the maamar is going to go from here it's like a new section, like a new topic that is going to take us all the way to the end of the maamar and come back. Okay? So the fourth line of the paragraph Dalet. V'yesh levarze. We can explain this al pi mashakosov ad maamar shab nishmasa eden bal yom eledus. We can explain this based on what the Rebbe Rashab, whose birthday it was on Chaf Cheshvan, the day that this maamar was said. The Rebbe Rashab says, "B'maamar dibur maskil ki mitzvah zos asher noichim mitzavcha yom lo niflesi mimchav lo rechokehi." The Rebbe Rashab said a maamar on the pasuk ki mitzvah zos asher noichim mitzavcha yom lo niflesi mimchav lo rechokehi. There's a pasuk in Parshas Nitzavim in Devarim that says that this mitzvah that I'm commanding you today is not beyond you, and it's not far away from you. And the pasuk then continues, Ki korav elecha, because in fact it's close to you, very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart to do it. Yeah? So the pasuk says that this mitzvah that I'm commanding you today is not beyond you, and it's not far away from you. It's actually close to you, very close to you, in your heart and in your mouth to do it. In your mouth and in your heart to do it. That's what the pasuk says. The Rebbe Rashab said a maamar on that pasuk. Brackets, b'seif maamarim shalei b'shemechinim ata l'tfus, which is printed in the book of maamarim of the Rebbe Rashab that is being prepared right now to be printed. The Rebbe said, as he said the maamar. The maamar was said in 1985, and this book of maamarim known as Ayin Beis was being prepared for print. So in the Rebbe Rashab's maamar on this pasuk, he explains, the shnei halashonis nifleis urechoka hem ba'atik va'arich. When it says in the pasuk, it is not beyond you, and it's not far from you. Beyond and far, those two words, beyond and far, denote atik and arich. You see that? Why? The pele hu lashon hafrash v'avdallah hu atik. Something that's beyond, pele, wondrous, out there. The word pele means something that is in a category of its own. It's something that is completely beyond and outside of the realm. That's referring to atik. Because atik, as we've described earlier, is the level of Keser, the inner level of Keser, that is completely beyond, disconnected from Ishtalshalos. Unlike Arich, which is connected to Ishtalshalos. So the word Verichuk, hu ba'arich. The word Fa refers to Arich. The Lashon Richuk Meirish yesh lo shayches ladavar shurachim menu. Because something that's far away from something else has a relationship with that something else. There's a relative description. They're far from each other, but from each other. Like there's a relationship there. So to be far from something, you have to be in the same realm as it, just far away. That's Arich, the lower level of Keser, which is beyond Ishtalshalos, but not beyond completely. It is the source of Ishtalshalos. So therefore it's far from Ishtalshalos. Infinitely far from Ishtalshalos, but far. Not beyond in the same way as Atik is, that is completely separate from Ishtalshalos. That's what the word far means. Like for example, Shlomo Melech, King Solomon said, he was talking about Paraduma, the mitzvah of Paraduma. No one can understand the meaning of Paraduma. So he said, I said that I would be wise and I'd figure out the reason for it, but it's far from me. What does that mean? The fact that he said that I thought I would work it out means because I have intelligence, I have a brain, and I thought my brain would be able to understand the meaning of Paraduma. There is a relationship between my mind and the understanding of Paraduma. But it's far from me. In the end, the understanding of it is beyond my understanding. Not beyond because I don't have understanding. I do have understanding. It's just far from me.
But that doesn't make it beyond.
It's not beyond. It could be infinitely far, but it's not beyond, meaning it's not in a totally different realm.
Sorry, but I thought the definition of chukim were that they were beyond us.
Okay, so now we have to be more careful with our definition. What does beyond mean? It means that we can't understand it. Not because we're not smart enough, because our human mind cannot grasp the mind of Hashem. But that doesn't mean that there's no rationale to them. There is a wisdom to them, but that wisdom is far from our wisdom. Infinitely far from our wisdom.
There's always a wisdom. It's Hashem's wisdom. Even when it's beyond, there's always a wisdom.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've got wisdom. Hashem has wisdom. They're not really comparable.
No.
But they're both wisdom. So Shlomo Melech said, I thought my wisdom would reach that wisdom, but it's far away. It's far away. And it doesn't mean far away meaning, and they just needed a few more years. It's far away, like it is infinitely far. But it's not beyond. Beyond, literally, being more careful with the term beyond. Beyond means that there is no connection whatsoever. Like, you didn't get any closer. Shlomo Melech is no closer than I am. He's the wisest of all men, I'm not. But if it's beyond, we're no closer. If it's far, he got closer than I did. He understood Paraduma better than I did. But he didn't get there because it's far away.
So is the only reason we know that Paraduma is Arich and not Atik because Shlomo Melech said this? Could it actually be Atik?
We'll see. That will be answered. So the term far is Arich, the lower level of Keser. The term beyond is Atik, the higher level of Keser. Because Arich is far, infinitely far away. But it has a shaykhus, has a relationship with the Ishtalshalos. Whereas Atik is completely beyond. It has no relationship whatsoever with the Ishtalshalos. It's a completely separate category of existence. So the Rebbe Rashab in the maamar that we're quoting explains the mashakosov ki mitzvah zois lo niflesi mimcha dafka. When the pasuk says this mitzvah that I'm commanding you is not beyond you and it's not far from you, the pasuk is emphasizing from you it's not far. Meaning, a mitzvah is far and is beyond. Just from you, it's not. Really, what is a mitzvah? Mitzvahs come from arich. Mitzvahs come from atik. They're far away. They're beyond. Just the amazing news to tell you is they're not from you. They're not far from you. And they're not beyond you. So in other words, the Rebbe Rashab takes this pasuk and turns it around a bit. The pasuk is telling you it's not far from you. It's not beyond you. Why is the pasuk saying that? To tell you it is far and it is beyond. That's what mitzvahs are. Just from you they're not. Why are they far and beyond? So the Rebbe explains.
Because they come from these realms?
Right, correct. Hukikiven, we're on the 7th last line of the page, towards the end of that line. Kikiven sham mitzvahs hem rotzene elyon, because mitzvahs are, what are mitzvahs? Rotzene elyon, Hashem's will. Rotzen shalamayim matam, and will is higher than any rationale or reason. Hem bechinas pele v'richuk. So therefore, they are beyond and far. Because a mitzvah, what is a mitzvah? A mitzvah is what Hashem wants. So is there any reasonable expectation that a human being should be able to grasp and relate to what Hashem wants? Like, would it make any sense to say that you should be able to relate to Hashem's will? What is will? Will is that which is above reason, above intellect, above rationale, above any explanation. So you're supposed to understand that? You're supposed to relate to that? Of course not. If that's what a mitzvah is, if a mitzvah is Hashem's will, how would we possibly be expected to have any relationship with a mitzvah, any understanding, appreciation of a mitzvah? It's totally beyond us. It's Hashem's will.
But that's only if you're trapped within the realm of thought.
No, if you're a finite being. If you're a created being, created by Hashem, so a created being to understand its creator, who's infinite, no way.
But that's intellect. You can still connect with it.
With what?
With Hashem's will. Through mitzvahs. You know,
But how can you connect to it?
through being a part of it, through sort of a kinetic experience. Because you can't meditate on a mitzvah and that be a mitzvah.
What I'm saying is, does that make sense? Does that make sense for you to be able to relate to a mitzvah? You're a finite being. A mitzvah is the will of Hashem who is infinite.
However, it does exist in a finite world. So therefore there has to be some sort of relationship. Maybe far, but it's not beyond, or not always.
Also, we come
It
from
should
the
be.
same source as the mitzvah. We also come from Hashem's will.
That's where we come from.
Yeah.
But we're down here now.
Yeah, but we've got the same source.
And Hashem is part of Hashem, and so they're
It's like when you...
So you have to explain. You have to bring in an explanation that there's some part of us that is beyond being finite. That is not just being human.
Yeah.
Right.
How do we connect to
I
Hashem?
understand. But does that mean that our soul connects to Hashem, not our body?
Well, our soul and our body are now connected intrinsically.
Some of us force. Our bodies do what we ask them to do.
If it's our soul connecting to Hashem, it did that before. Well, it came down here, and we can connect to Hashem down here. I'm just breaking this down to show you that's an unbelievable thought.
Oh.
That we can connect to Hashem down here. That's crazy. There's nothing obvious about that.
Why not? I find it very obvious.
Maybe because we've learned Chassidut, so it becomes obvious.
No, but you have to break down the thought. Like, why should a limited being be able to relate to an infinite being? I'll give you a very simple metaphor. I'll give you a simple metaphor. Somebody who is a genius, intellectual, brilliant person who lives in the realm of academia, and they think 1,000 miles an hour faster than anyone around them. And that is their entire world. And then somebody of very average or below average intelligence whose entire world is just the physical world. And that's it. They have no appreciation of any thought or anything. They've never had a deep thought in their lives. And you put them in a room and tell them to socialize. Is there any chance of them having a conversation?
Maybe
Yeah, of course there
And
is.
if they're girls and boys, yeah, you're good.
No.
Yeah, they could say,
Maybe they both hate their mothers.
funny weather, isn't it? Crazy weather, right?
Wouldn't have a real conversation.
For them to be able to connect is not possible.
Why?
Because, like,
It's not
Have you ever met such a
It's
person?
not probable.
Have you ever met a genius like that?
Oh, so are you talking about a genius to the point that...
I'm not talking about just like the smartest person in your class.
No.
I'm talking about a genius who their entire world is a world of theory, of ideas, of formulae.
Right.
That's their entire world. And there's another person whose entire world is skateboarding. That's their entire world. Put them together in a room. They have nothing to talk about. They have nothing in common. Because the things that one person defines life in a certain way, the other one defines it in a totally different way. Their struggles, they're in a different realm. It's a metaphor. You don't have to agonize over the metaphor.
As a metaphor, yes, it makes a lot of sense.
So Hashem is not just a genius. Hashem is an infinite being. We are finite beings. There's no crossover. There's nothing in common. There's no space to meet between us. So to say that a mitzvah is Ratzon Elyon, Hashem's will, and we can relate to it, who would expect such a thing? Who would expect us to be able to have any relationship with Hashem through a mitzvah? It's Pele and Richuk. It's far from us. It's beyond us. Completely beyond. That's true of any mitzvah. Umekol sheken, end of the sixth last line. Umekol sheken mitzvahs tshuva. And that's talking about any mitzvah. But if you talk about the mitzvah of tshuva, it's even more the case. The tshuva is even less likely for us to be able to relate to and experience. Because tshuva is higher than all other mitzvahs.
So that was learning Torah.
Hmm?
So that was learning Torah.
No. That tshuva is a different category of mitzvahs.
Okay.
This pasuk that we're quoting, Ki mitzvah zois asher anointi mitzavcha hayom, this mitzvah that I command you today is not far from you, it's not beyond you. It's not beyond you, it's not far from you. That pasuk, what's it talking about? What is the mitzvah it's talking about? No. There are two opinions in the Mefarshim. One opinion is that it's talking about any mitzvah. Mitzvah generally. Mitzvahs. That mitzvahs are not beyond you and they're not far from you. There's another opinion, that's Rashi and other commentaries. Ramban and other commentaries say that no, if you look at the context, that it's talking about tshuva there. This mitzvah is talking about tshuva. The mitzvah of tshuva is not far from you, it's not beyond you.
Right.
So there's two opinions in the Mefarshim, whether it's talking about any mitzvah or it's talking about tshuva. Now, these are two different categories. There's all mitzvahs and then there's tshuva. Why is tshuva a different category to all mitzvahs? Because what is tshuva? If tshuva is just another mitzvah, then it makes no sense. I didn't do a mitzvah. So what do I do now? Tshuva. And that's going to fix it? Doing this mitzvah fixes not doing that mitzvah? It makes no sense. It must be that tshuva is a different category of mitzvah. It's a deeper mitzvah that has the power to complete what I missed out by not doing the other mitzvahs or by doing a sin. It's going deeper when you do tshuva. Or in other words, when Hashem says, I want you to do mitzvahs, it's coming from one place in His self. When He says, if you didn't do a mitzvah, then do tshuva, that must be coming from a deeper place in Himself. A place that can fix the fact that you didn't listen to the other place that told you to do mitzvahs. So tshuva is a deeper mitzvah than other mitzvahs. That's how it has the ability to replenish that which was ruined by you not doing a mitzvah.
Right. So it's beyond?
Yeah. So, yes. So, if we're talking about all mitzvahs are beyond, we've already said all mitzvahs are beyond because they're coming from Ratzon Elyon.
Right.
Certainly tshuva is beyond.
Right.
And brackets, the fifth last line, many commentaries say that this mitzvah spoken about in this pasuk that says this mitzvah is not beyond you is talking about tshuva. Tshuva is coming from a place that's higher than the ratzon, than the will for mitzvahs in Hashem. As it's explained several places in Chassidus, the fact that tshuva has the power to replenish the blemish that you caused through doing a sin is because tshuva comes from Hashem himself, not the Ratzon, but the one who has the Ratzon, which is Hashem himself. The Ratzon is what you went against when you did a sin. The one who owns the Ratzon can make up for it if you do tshuva. It's a place that's higher than the will for mitzvahs. In other words, when you sinned, you insulted God, you went against His will, you went against His will. When you did tshuva, you connected with Him, not His will, but Him. And so, therefore, that can make up for the will issue that you created, because He Himself can override that. You went to the source.
But how is not doing a mitzvah the same as doing a sin?
It's different, but it's the same concept. You went against God's will. Hashem said to do this, He said not to do that.
If you know what the mitzvah is and you choose not to do it.
Okay, so let's say I forget to do Havdalah.
That's not.
That's forgetting, which is a different category of sin. You still have to do tshuva. But you have to do tshuva for forgetting, not for intentionally sinning. But there's something missing. There was something that was supposed to happen called Havdalah, which is Hashem's will. It didn't happen.
Right.
You've got to make up for it.
Right.
So tshuva has the power to make up for it. How? How does it have the power? Because you're going to the Baal Ratzon, to the one who owns the Ratzon. Tshuva is a connection with him himself, higher than any other mitzvah. Second last line, tshuva actually reaches the essence of Hashem. In fact, that's hinted at in the verse. This verse, according to the opinion that's talking about tshuva, it says, this mitzvah that I myself command you. Anoichi, it uses the word anoichi. Anoichi always means me, my very self. This mitzvah, I myself command. The other mitzvahs come from Ratzon. This mitzvah is anoichi. It's coming from me, myself. It's a deeper mitzvah.
What other mitzvahs come from that?
None.
Just teshuvah.
Yeah.
You know how they say a tzaddik is not able to do tshuva because they don't really have yetzer hara. This level of tshuva, this level of crying out to Hashem because your vessels are empty, when you're doing mitzvahs anyway, is a tzaddik able to reach this level of tshuva?
Yeah, but not really. They can do tshuva because their love is not complete. Or because their tshuva is actually because they do love Hashem. And it's yesh misha oyev. It's me loving Hashem. That's yeshus. That's mitzias. That's their tshuva. It's a different category. It's a different discussion. It's like a totally different world. So if every mitzvah is beyond and far, every mitzvah is coming from Ratzon Elyon, which is completely beyond what human capacity should be able to relate to. So bottom line, certainly tshuva, certainly tshuva is beyond and far from us. Because it's coming from an even higher place than other mitzvahs.
Okay. But like the amazing thing about mitzvahs is that no matter where they come from, without humans to actualize them, they're merely God's will, which is nothing until you actually do it.
Right, but we're not up to there yet.
Oh, okay.
We're still appreciating what mitzvahs should be.
So yeah, I'm keen on self-actualizing ourselves.
Yeah. We will get there. Don't worry. In the end, we do get the mitzvahs. Don't worry. But at this stage, appreciate that. What is a mitzvah? A mitzvah is Hashem's will. Hashem's will. Even a person's will is hard to understand and relate to. Hashem's will is impossible to understand and relate to. So that's what a mitzvah is. And that's any mitzvah. Tshuva is not even Hashem's will, that's Hashem's self.
The tshuva is also very
higher
hard
than
to do.
Yeah, but that it should be possible, that it should be, we should have a discussion about tshuva. We're talking about extremely high levels here that we can connect to. It's not expected. It's beyond and it's far. In fact, specifically, the two types of tshuva, one of them is far, and the other one's beyond. Right. Bottom line of the page. The tshuva tatahi b'chinas richuk. Because the lower level of tshuva is far from us. Tshuva ilah, top of the next page, tshuva ilah hi b'chinas pela. And tshuva ilah, the higher tshuva, that is beyond.
Sorry, say that again.
The lower type of tshuva is far.
Yeah.
The higher type of tshuva is completely beyond. Why? Ki tshuva tatahi b'chinas he makif the chaya, makif akarev, because the lower tshuva is in the makif of chaya, the level of chaya of our soul, and that's the close makif.
That's close.
I'll explain in a minute. Yeah. וגם המשכה מלמעלה נמשכת על תשובת התו היא מקיף דאור יושר שיש לה שייכות לפנימי דבכלולוס הוא אריך. And so to the divine light that is drawn down through doing tshuvat hatah, the lower tshuva, is the makif called Ur Yashar, which has some connection to Pnimius, which is like arich. One sec. U'tshuva ila hiba makif de yechida. The higher tshuva comes from the makif of the soul called yechida, the higher level of the soul, makif arachik, which is the distant level of makif. וגם המשכה מלמעלה שנמשכת על ידי זה היא המקיף דאור חויזה מלמעלה שייכת לפנימיוס. And so therefore the divine light that is drawn down through the higher level of tshuva is the higher makif of Or Choiza, which is higher than any connection to Pnimius, the B'cholus Hu Atik, which we call Atik. One second.
That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Okay. What's the Rebbe saying? That the two types of tshuva come from two levels in the soul. There's tshuva that comes from the chaya level of the soul, and there's tshuva that comes from yichida of the soul. The tshuva that comes from chaya of the soul is called tshuva tata, lower tshuva, and it draws down the light of arich, which is far. The tshuva that comes from the yichida in the soul is called tshuva ilah, higher tshuva. It draws down atik, which is beyond. What does that mean? What is tshuva? If you think about it like this, why do you need to do tshuva? Because you stuffed up, because you did the wrong thing, because you sinned, you didn't do the mitzvah, whatever it is, something went wrong. What went wrong? How is it possible for something to go wrong? How could you do a sin? How's that possible? Well, what do you mean how it's possible? We struggle. We're strugglers. We have a Yetzer Hara, we have a Nefesh Bahamis, we have an inner battle going on all the time, and we sometimes make the wrong choice, and we do the wrong thing. Okay, so you have an inner battle, and you lost the battle. So now you're going to do tshuva? Who's going to do tshuva? You?
Everybody.
You're going to do tshuva. How do you do tshuva? If you have done the wrong thing, and that was you who lost the battle, so then who does tshuva? The same you who lost the battle? Well, not really. No. You've got a level of your soul that's higher than the battle.
Cool.
And that's called the level of chaya.
Does that mean you do it automatically? Like, does your chaya do it automatically?
No, it means that as soon as you feel the level of chaya, you'll do tshuva.
Oh, fine. Never happened.
In other words, why is it that you do sins, and then you feel bad about it, and you do tshuva? Who's sinning? Who's feeling bad? Like, is it you?
Yeah.
So what is it, just the timing? That when you're doing the sin, that's what you want to do.
Right.
When after you've done the sin, I didn't want to do that. So who are you? The answer is that you have an inner battle, levels of your soul called nefesh, ruach, neshama. Nefesh is the level of the soul in the body, ruach in your emotions, neshama in your mind. And they're constantly battling, because next to the nefesh, ruach, neshama of the nefesh lakis, there's a nefesh, ruach, neshama of nefesh bahamis, and they are constantly fighting. So you have bodily urges that are holy and that are unholy. You have emotions that are holy and unholy. You have philosophies and ideas and thoughts that are holy and unholy. And sometimes that one wins, sometimes this one wins. It's a constant battle.
Is the potential all balanced? The weight of one?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah. So you're constantly going through inner battles and you lose some. But that's talking about nefesh, ruach, neshama. But there's a level of your soul called chaya. And that is a level that's not contained in your body. It doesn't have a place in the body. It is deeper than your conscious self. And that level just wants to be connected to Hashem.
Chaya, the lower.
Chaya, the lower level of
Isn't that
makif.
upstairs all the time?
It hovers around the body as it were. I mean, it's
And
not
where's
physical,
Yechida?
but like Yechida is connected with Hashem.
So the Yechid is with Hashem and the chaya is near us.
Yeah. So there's a level of the soul that even though you've chosen to do the wrong thing, it can override that and say, no, you want to do the right thing.
Or it can feel bad.
And that's what makes you feel bad. The level of chaya in your soul, which was never part of the battle and was never negatively influenced in the first place, is saying, what are you doing? Why'd you do that?
Why doesn't it influence you in the first place not to do that?
Well, it does sometimes, but it's makif. Makif is not very influential.
Right, because it's beyond.
Yeah.
No, it's sort of like it's
So something has to happen to arouse you to makif. You have to hear the makif. So if your soul is a little bit intact, so you feel a bit of remorse, and that's coming from chaya, and you do tshuva.
But chaya is not the part that does tshuva. Who does tshuva? I do tshuva. We do tshuva.
Yeah, but chaya is you. We're talking about you. This is your soul. That level of your soul that says, my nefesh got confused, my ruach got misguided, my nefesh did the wrong thing. But chaya says, come on, you got to fix this up. There's a deeper level of the soul called Yechida. That level of the soul doesn't just choose to do the right thing. It cannot not do the right thing. It's just not an option in the first place. Chaya always chooses to do the right thing. Yechida, there's not a choice in the first place. There's not even a thought in the first place. There's not even a challenge in the first place.
That's the tzaddik in us.
Yeah, correct. And so when you do tshuva tata, it means you've awakened the level of chaya, which overcomes the negative. When you do tshuva elah, it's the level of yechida that the negative has no place in the first place. It's not even a question. So when you do tshuva from the level of chaya, lower tshuva, so that you arouse a makif from Hashem, the lower makif, the close makif. When you do tshuva from the level of yechida, then you arouse the higher makif, which is the distant makif. Chaya corresponds to arich, yechida corresponds to atik.
When you talk about the level of chaya, the level of tshuva and chaya, with chaya, I guess, is that like after we've done something wrong, that guilt, that's a level of tshuva itself, just the guilt?
That's the beginning of tshuva.
So even if you don't act differently next time or resign to do something differently next time, that is still a level of tshuva.
That's called a hero tshuva. You've had a feeling, you've had a thought of tshuva. You have to do something about it. To do tshuva means to turn around, to say, I'm not doing this again. But the beginning of it is that feeling.
Yeah. So sorry, that feeling, does that achieve tshuva, or it's just...
Not on its own.
No. Okay.
No. You have to go through the process of tshuva, which is, I don't want to do that again, I will not do it again, I regret doing it.
Yeah.
And I admit that I did it. The various levels of tshuva.
Yeah.
Now, third last line of the paragraph there. Now the pasuk here tells us this mitzvah, even if we're talking about tshuva, is not beyond you and not far from you. Even though really it should be, it makes sense, a mitzvah is beyond and is far, and certainly tshuva is beyond and far, but from you it's not. It's addressing the Jewish soul and saying, do you realize? You can do this. You can do a mitzvah and relate to it. You can do tshuva. It's actually accessible to you. It shouldn't be, logically, but it is. Because Jewish souls have it all. And they're given everything from above. They're given access to every level. Wow. And so therefore, from you, a Jewish soul, even this is not far from you. In fact, it's close. Yeah? This is all the maamar of the Rebbe Rashab.
Oh, is that like part of Iron Base or whatever?
Yeah.
No wonder it's so hard.
Yeah.
Do they get harder than this, don't they?
Yeah, sure. So that's something from the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe has a big question on this, on what we just said. A big question. And I promise you it's not a question that we would ask. We're gonna have to appreciate the question, understand the question. Right? As I've said many times, a part of learning Torah is understanding the question as well. Meaning, to understand the question is a madrega. You know, usually in secular learning, to have a question is a negative. Is like, we understood it. Now you have a question, so you must be not understanding. You're lower. In Torah, now having a question is a higher, deeper thing. It means, okay, you've got it, you've understood it, and now you have a question that needs to be explained in it. So you've grasped it, and now you need further elaboration. So understanding a question is an advancement of knowledge, not taking away. So the Rebbe has a massive question on this. So we have to learn the question now. Hey, the tzarich lav, you have to understand. What's the big deal that this pasuk is coming to tell us? What's the news? What's the chiddush? That this pasuk tells us that this mitzvah, and let's say it's talking about tshuva, the mitzvah of tshuva is not beyond you, not far from you. But that's a big deal to tell you that? The lechura, it doesn't seem to make sense. We just said, when a person does tshuva, what do you do tshuva with? Where does tshuva come from? From the level of makif of your soul, chaya and yechida. And they are the parallel of the makifim of Hashem's light, which is arich and atik. You've got chaya and yechida, just like Hashem has arich and atik in his system. You've got your hishtalshalus, which is your inner soul, nefesh, ruach, neshama, and you have your higher than hishtalshalus, your makif, chaya and yechida. Just like Hashem has his hishtalshalus, the 10 spheres, and he has higher than hishtalshalus, the makifim of arich and atik. And how do you do tshuva? Through arich and atik of your soul. So you draw down arich and atik. It's not far and it's not beyond. So what's the big deal? Of course. What's the big deal to tell me that, guess what? You are able to draw down the makif of arich and atik. How? By using the makif of your soul, arich and atik, the chay and yichid of your soul. What's the big deal? Of course. Meaning, what's the Rebbe's question here? The fact that people can draw down godliness is news. It is news. That we could draw down godly light, we wouldn't have known that. But we do have the Torah. And the whole Torah is about bringing down godly light. And the whole system of Torah is that you as a human being can do a movement with your body, which is called a mitzvah, and that draws down a certain energy. And depending on which particular mitzvah you do, will depend on what type of energy you draw down. But Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. Like a shadow moves exactly as you move, so to Hashem will move exactly as you move. You do a mitzvah with love, Hashem's love comes into the world. You do a mitzvah with awe, and Hashem's awe comes down into the world. Whatever you do, Hashem will respond in kind. Not that that's a logical thing, that Hashem should respond to you, no. But that's the system of Torah. That's how Torah works. So therefore, when you come along and say that, okay, that's fine when we're talking about hishtalshalus, to draw down the hishtalshalus light into the world, that makes a lot of sense. That when you do something with your hishtalshalus, your inner powers of love and fear and meditation and whatever it is, so then you draw down Hashem's light from the 10 spheres. That makes a lot of sense. Now we're saying, but guess what? Not only hishtalshalus you can draw down, but higher than hishtalshalus. Not only the pnimi, the makif. You can draw down the light that's beyond, that's left behind. Even that you can draw down. And do you know how? You can do that through tshuva. Through doing an act with your makif, your chaya yechida, not your inner self, but your higher self. You can draw down the higher self of Hashem into the world. Well, that's not so surprising. Like, we've already got the feeling that that's what Torah is about. You do something, Hashem responds in kind. So if you do an inner act, you get an inner thing. If you do a makif act, you get a makif thing. Why does the pasuk have to come as if it's like telling us this major news? Guess what? Even the levels that are beyond are not beyond you. Because you can do tshuva with your makif, you can draw down even the makif, the beyond, the far. Well, yeah, that's the system of Torah mitzvahs. That's how things work. So why does the Torah have to get all excited about that, as if it's a new piece of information that we never would have guessed? That's the Rebbe's question that bothered him in learning this maamar of the Rebbe Rashab. So to appreciate the answer, you have to get the question, because the answer is unbelievable.
Well, I don't get the question, because I ask questions like that all the time. Every time I ask questions like that, it's like, oh, well, it's the deeper meaning of things, and it's to inspire us, and it's to teach us, and like a lot of things are sometimes a little bit obvious. Like a couple of the maamars that you've given. Oh, I'm like, okay, that's obvious. So? No?
That's pretty awesome when you think it's obvious.
But then your answer is always, you just kind of shrug your shoulders sometimes. And then sometimes somebody else will pipe up and say, it's to inspire you, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same as this question. But I hear what you're saying. So there's two possibilities. If what the maamar says is obvious, so either you have internalized that idea to the point where it's not news, or the idea is so far away from you that you actually haven't heard what it says. It could be either one. That's usually because the Rebbe definitely didn't have to tell us stuff we knew already. That's for sure. The Rebbe didn't put his energy into maamar to tell us stuff that we learned in Kindi. So either it's something you have learned and it's just become natural, or you missed the chiddush there.
Right. So the question here is, what is the chiddush? What?
So the Rebbe's question here is, the Rebbe Rashab told us something which, me personally, I only speak for myself, I thought that was an amazing idea.
Yeah, me too.
That's so cool that we can draw down the makif. The Rebbe said, okay, 1 second. It's not so amazing. If you think about it, that's the system of mitzvahs.
Yeah.
There must be something even more amazing that not the Rebbe Rashab is telling us, that the Torah is telling us by saying, Ki mitzvah. I want to tell you something, says Hashem. This mitzvah I'm giving you, the mitzvah of tshuva, is not beyond you, and it's not far from you. Because it should be beyond you, and it should be far from you, and I'm telling you it's not. I need to tell you it's not. Because if I didn't tell you, you never would have guessed that you could do this. But we would have, because you've just given us a whole Torah, which is all about us drawing down divine light. Whatever we do, Hashem reacts to. So would we so never guess that we could do something with our makif and draw down Hashem's makif? That's all you're saying. So what's the big chiddush here? There must be something. There must be a big chiddush here. There must be something that we never would have guessed. And this is what it is. The yesh loma, the fifth line of this paragraph. So this is what we could say. Demimcha koi al naran shehem ikra adam. When it says that this level, the level of makif, the beyond levels, you can access them, you can draw them down, it's not far from you, it's not beyond you. Who's you? You means naran, nefesh, ruach, neshama of you. The you down here, in your body. Not the makifim, but the pnimim, the personality standing right in front of you right now. That's who's been spoken about when it says it's not far from you. And that's major news. The Torah is saying here, of course you can access the makifim through the makifim of your neshama. That we could have guessed. At least the Rebbe could have guessed it. But to tell us that not only your makifim can access the makifim, but your nefesh, ruach, neshama, your conscious mind and emotions and actions, your inner self, the person that's sitting right here, the you, from you. It's talking about you. Not the deeper you, the higher you, the you that's floating about. You, right here. You can access every level. They should be completely beyond and far from you, and they're not. You can access them.
How do you learn that?
We'll see.
Oh, okay.
Just from the word mimcha. From you.
From you, and you can...
Who's mimcha? If I say you, if I say, could you please pass me a glass of water?
Right.
Am I talking to Chay Yechida?
No.
Am I talking to the makifim of
So
neshama? I'm saying you. So when it says it's not far from you, it's meaning who I'm talking to. The you that's sitting there listening, that never would have guessed this. You, it's not far from you.
But like by the same token, you could also say that the you just... Like I guess you need someone to tell you that you also implies Naran, not just Chayechida.
Well, that's how you'd usually translate you. Like when
Right.
I said to you, pass the water.
Right, it would be
Yeah, but
the
you
inside
saying
of
to
you.
her, got past the water, is not the same as Hashem saying the mitzvah is not far, not beyond.
Right.
So we
So
could
the Rebbe
assume that they're
says
talking
we
to
could have,
another
but then it's not a chiddush.
Right.
That's
So-
the Rebbe's.
so
That's
then
what the Rebbe's
it is
saying.
the,
It's not a chiddush. It's not news.
Right.
The Chiddush is that the Rebbe extended that to the you, and he's going to
That
explain
you is
how
talking
it gets
about
inside
you all the way down here. That you have access to the makifim, to the highest levels that should logically be completely beyond and above and inaccessible. You down here can get those levels, which was like your question earlier, right? When you asked, like that we, through our actions, can arouse the makif.
Yeah.
That's what the chiddush of the Torah here is saying. It's unbelievable. It's saying that the you down here can access those levels of the soul. Now here the Rebbe sort of backs this up. What does that mean? How is it really possible? How is it practically possible for your conscious mind to access these levels? Dagam, the fifth line, of the paragraph. Dagam shetshuva b'hamakifim de neshama. Even though we explained earlier, the tshuva comes from the makifim of the neshama, chai yechida, meaning your internal personality is the one that stuffed up and sinned. It's your higher personality of makif that does tshuva. That's true, but mikol makom, nevertheless, bechdei le'or hamakifim tzricha liyos hisbonus. In order to awaken and arouse those makifim of the neshama, you need a contemplation and meditation in your conscious mind. And your contemplation in your nefesh, ruach, neshama, in your conscious soul, has to be in such a way that will arouse the makifim that are above the intellect. Did you hear that? Again. We said before, in the previous section, that where does tshuva come from? Chai yechida, the makif, the neshama. Your conscious neshama, nefesh ruach neshama, was the one that stuffed up, got conquered by the nefesh bahamis, sinned. Where does tshuva come from? From your deeper soul that's above the sin. True, it's true. Chai yechida are where the impetus for tshuva come from. But how do you awaken, arouse, and connect to chai yechida? Through his bonus, through a contemplation, through a thought, through a conscious process. Where you say, what am I doing with my life? Where am I? What's going on here? How can I be doing this? That's all conscious mind. When the conscious mind is aware that you've done the wrong thing and you need to do something about it, that awakens the chai yechida level that says, I need to do tshuva. There's really two possible sources of tshuva. One is a spontaneous thing and one is an active thing. Sometimes we want to do tshuva out of the blue. We didn't expect it, we didn't try, just like we had this pang inside us that made us want to do tshuva. Okay, that's because there are heavenly voices, baskals, that call out to do tshuva, and our neshama, chai yechida level of neshama, hear that, and that drips down to us down here, and we want to do tshuva.
They're specifically to us? Or it's like the whole Jewish people?
They've been called every day, just sometimes you and your soul hears it every day, but sometimes it gets impacted enough to drop down into your conscious self.
Cool.
So it comes from above to below. But there's another way of doing tshuva, and that is where there was no spontaneous call from above. You took a stock of your life, and you realized that I've got to get moving. Like, which lifetime am I waiting for? What am I into? This is it. What am I doing? And you consciously say, even though in your conscious mind, the conscious mind was the one that got confused and stuffed and sinned. But that same conscious mind that did the sin, that was involved in the wrong thing and was convinced that it's okay, that same mind is now saying, no, I should have done that. And you contemplate on how far you are, and you awaken the makifim of your neshama, and you do tshuva. That is unbelievable. That is an incredible thought. That the same person that did the wrong thing, your conscious self, your personality, you are also the one that says, I've got to do tshuva. That is unbelievable. To say that your makifim want to do tshuva, we understand that fits perfectly. But to say that you down here can want to do tshuva, that's unbelievable. You know what that means? That means you don't have to wait for the makif of your soul to wake up. You can decide yourself. You can make a decision. You can go through your schedule, look at your diary, and say, okay, I'm booking in tshuva for next week. You decided to do it. Who are you? You're the one that made all the problems. And you can decide, no, I'm doing tshuva. This is it. I'm doing tshuva. That's not beyond you. That's news. That we had to be told. It's not just the deeper level of your soul that wants to do tshuva. It's the conscious level of your soul that wants to do tshuva and can do it and it has access to it.
So
That's unbelievable.
Let's say we were never told this and we didn't know this. So this thought would be normal to us because we're humans and we understand that we can do stupid things 1 minute and then consciously really want to get rid of it the next and do the teshuva the next minute. So obviously when you look at the background of it, it's a chiddush, but when you talk about just human nature and its own understandings of self.
What you're saying is that everything's fine when you don't think about it. When you don't think about things, everything's normal.
I guess.
Yeah, that's true. You can go through your whole life not thinking about anything, and it's totally normal. Like somebody can say to you, do you know how unbelievable... You see the stars in the sky? Do you know what they are? You say, I've seen them since I was a baby. Like, I see them every night. Everyone sees stars. There's something special about stars. They're just there. Like, wait. Yeah, you're right. If you don't want to think about things, then they're just there. It's true. But this is say, stop and think what an unbelievable thing there is here. Yeah.
Cool. That's good. So, like, people who don't know Chassidus, what do they think Teshuvah is? Like saying, I sing those things.
Saying sorry, and but the idea, the process, the fact that it's possible, like...
It doesn't... It's not part of the process.
It certainly lacks a lot of dimension without Chassidus. No question about it. That's like the people who don't learn science. What I think stars are.
Like twinkly things.
Very pretty.
Twinkle little stars. Twinkle little stars.
Right, I know. This stupid song.
So, sorry, just the part where you said that we can schedule in Tshuva. Like, I feel like that in a way could be compared to either, I mean, talking about Jewish practice, it's like davening maybe or something, but in more secular terms, meditation, it's got to be something you become good at. You can't just sit there and do tshuva. You've got to figure out kind of how to do it, how to draw down.
There's a method and there's a system and there's a program of tshuva, that's true. But the decision to do tshuva...
That doesn't come from your consciousness, does it? I mean, yeah, you can sit and intellectualize it, but that decision...
It does. It can. Put it this way, put it differently. Let's say it's Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
You didn't make it Yom Kippur. You didn't decide when Yom Kippur is. Hashem said it's Yom Kippur. And the mitzvah of Yom Kippur is tshuva. So you can say, okay, so I'm doing tshuva now. It's Elul. It's Rosh Hashanah, whatever it is. Like, okay, so I've got to do tshuva now. We're not saying necessarily that something came from above to inspire you to do it, but the calendar says to do tshuva now. It's slichus. So you do tshuva. You can. You can actually do that. You can decide, okay, it's time to do tshuva, I'm going to do it. Even if it didn't come from above. Now those times, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, there is a bit of an above, wave to come up. But you could do that any time. You could decide, okay, I'm really doing tshuva today. I'm going to do it. What it's saying is there's no force from above that needs to inspire you from doing. You don't even have to be in touch with your Chai Yechidah to do tshuva. You can put yourself in touch with your Chai Yechidah. Your conscious mind can decide to do it.
And really speaking, how many times in a person's lifetime should they be, I don't know,
doing tshuva?
In a major way though, not in refining the mitzvahs you already do, or I don't know what I'm talking about really, but like doing
whenever you need. I mean, in a way, it's every day. There's a daily tshuva before you go to bed. There's a monthly tshuva. There's a weekly tshuva. There's a yearly tshuva. I mean, different levels of tshuva, but the upheaval of tshuva, the complete transformation, when you need it. Some people need it every day.
But some people never do it.
Yeah.
How can you change yourself every day? How can you decide?
Some people need it every day.
I assume it's a very high level.
Yeah.
The people who do it every day wouldn't even need to do it. They'd be like, oh, Hashem,
No, they're feeling empty. They're sitting there every day feeling like they haven't done enough. It's an unbelievable thing.
Yeah, that's like most people I know who feel like they don't go enough every day.
But to do it on occasion, is not bad.
I don't think I've ever done it.
So to do it once is also not
Then
bad.
that would be an accomplishment.
Once every year at least.
I would never make changes though. I might think about it and make the changes.
Okay. So there are other mamarim that can help.
That's
Psychopath of psychology.
there's a maamar for everything.
Yeah. But the thought that you're having now is a part of tshuva too.
What?
Like
Yes,
the
I
realization that I didn't really do tshuva ever. That's pretty good.
Like stepping on the treadmill is a good start.
So let's finish the paragraph. V'zeu chidush, the end of the 6th last line. V'zehu hachidush b'lei niflei simcha shemimcha kayan. So now we know what the chidush is. The chidush in this pasuk that's saying it's not beyond you is shemimcha kayan naran kana, because mimcha, you, is talking about you, the conscious you, naran. The gam shamakifim chay yechida hen nifloi meruchaykim naran. Even though the levels of chay yechida are beyond and far from naran, they're the levels that are beyond you, higher than you, the level of soul that is beyond you. But your conscious mind has the ability to awaken through an appropriate contemplation and meditation the levels of your soul that are beyond you and higher than you. You actually have access to those levels that logically you should not be able to access. That's what they are. They're beyond. Beyond means not inaccessible. You can access them too. And through that, and through accessing the levels of your soul that are beyond, you can access the levels of divine light that is beyond Atik and Arich. Because that level of the soul awakens that level of the godly light. And how is this possible? Why indeed are you, as you are, able to access these levels that should be inaccessible? As we quoted earlier from the Rebbe Rashab, because the Jewish soul, including the Jewish soul as it is within your body, have everything. You've got it all. And Hashem gives you every opportunity. That is a chidush.